Good afternoon, everyone. There's definitely a correlation between increased volcanic activity during these grand solar minimums, both entering and exiting. Interesting how in Alaska this type of eruption just occurred. Also, the Helheim Glacier in Greenland, suddenly steam vents breaking through the ice cap. Yes, there's volcanoes up there. They're even using these volcanic rock demarcation areas in oil exploration. Iceland about to experience another volcanic eruption if the earthquakes continue. And we all remember in 2010 how much air traffic was affected. And if there is another large eruption, just think of this one Pinatubo volcano dropping Earth's temperatures. And with this many erupting volcanoes at the same time on our planet, you really need to ask yourself how much ash is going into the atmosphere. And we are absolutely going to experience something of either the Dalton or the Maunder minimum type of grand solar minimum starting right now. So you can expect volcanic activity increasing. And look, it's increasing. There's a direct correlation. And please remember to press that subscribe button and also click the bell so you can stay subscribed and get the latest updates. Look at all the major eruptions happening across the planet at the moment. An enormous amount compared to the average. Also, when we enter and exit grand solar minimums, there's a correlation of the volcanic forcing on the temperatures, specifically the amount of eruptions that are sending ejecta into the atmosphere, these different particulates of ash and sulfur dioxide. These seem to create a feedback loop anyway with the cosmic ray intensity increasing. And there's just more cloud cover. It bounces off more sunlight and temperatures cool on the planet. When the cosmic rays decrease, it seems that the volcanic activity decreases as well. And looking at the volcanic activity indices since the beginning of the CE era, 2,000 years, late antique little ice age 540, late antique little ice age around 540, that affected the entire world. They even had effects over in Central America, which I'd done a video on, and how the Mayan and Aztec kingdoms were affected. 1257, 1458, this is the Wolf and Spore minimum, and then 1815, that's the year without a summer, Dalton minimum. And when we come into a little more modern time frames here, this is from 1530 to 2020. And if you look around 1990, you'll see that Pinatubo mark there with the VEI 6. And when you follow along that line and you go vertical up into the dates, you'll see that at low solar activity, there seems to be one of these VEI 6 events. If that happens at the minimum, you know the temperature is going to cool on this planet. But if we get in something in Tambora style, that's going to be absolutely a year without a summer, and that will decimate our global crop production, and there will be such steep price rises that it will cause social unrest. Well, they'll have to call out the military to suppress the uprising from food prices or non-availability of food. That's what I'm saying. You've got to learn to grow your own food during this time. Also have some extras and know the community around you and work with those people. Here's the forecast going out for solar cycle 25 and 26. Dalton minimum, Maunder minimum. I'm saying we're going to repeat a longer, more powerful cycle than these two. That's just my own opinion, though. Now, also other signs we would look for volcanoes in strange places that you don't normally think of as seismic or volcanic areas. Greenland, for example. Kulusuk, that area on the Helheim Glacier, had these breakthroughs of steam vents coming out right now. This was captured by an Icelandic air pilot. A little bit closer in for you here. Unusual to say the least, but isn't it interesting how the scientists from the IPCC blamed global warming for the melting ice in that same area? Steam or CO2 from above in our atmosphere? Which one do you think is melting the ice? Anyway, on the rest of Greenland's ice cap, record ice growth this year. But that's really not making the media. That's too inconvenient. And if you say, no, there's no volcanic activity up in Greenland, you're crazy, I'll bring you over to the Geological Survey of Denmark and Greenland Bulletin. We'll go through the review survey in 2016 activities. They're using volcanic rock demarcation areas for oil exploration. I even put the title here with the page so you can go look for this yourself online. There is definitely volcanic activity across Greenland, but it is on 1,000-year cyclical patterns, not 100-year eruptions. This is the difference. And also, it's near Baffin Island. Remember Baffin Island? That's a seed point for the last large ice age, full-blown glaciation on our planet. And they've been having record cold temperatures and snow this year. Nunavut, Baffin Island, Quebec, snow in the summer. It's really unusual what's happening currently around these same exact areas. And staying right around Greenland, Iceland, about to experience another volcanic eruption. They gave it a 50% chance as these earthquakes increase. They've had over 500 earthquakes, at least in the last week of July, entering into August. They've subsided, but they're starting to tick back up again. So they're expecting an eruption there with this new increase in quake activity over the last 3 days. Now let's remember 2010 with the aviation disruption. Think about if another volcanic eruption happens, and just move forward if it were to cool that area significantly as we're entering into winter. These previous 500 were back on July 29th and 30th. Then there was a small break, but then it's upticked again. This was the Katla eruption in 1918. A little bit larger than the 2010 eruption, but that wasn't Katla. That was a periphery area. And then let's go over to a significant explosive eruption happening right now. Bogoslav volcano. The exact same thing happened. Aviation disruption. If that would happen over Iceland, European airspace would be shut down right now. This is August 7th. It had the equivalent of something just like this. Now, this was a prior eruption in the winter this year in the same chain, just a couple islands over. So what are the chances of two major eruptions disrupting aviation coming from the same exact spot, less than 100 miles apart? And through August 11th, it still is a hazard to aircraft. It's not in an area that's highly inhabited, such as Europe or the west coast of the U.S. It's way up in Alaska area, Aleutian Chain. But that whole black square is where the aviation hazard was. A little bit closer look here on the map for you of the Aleutian Chain and Bogoslav volcano. What's interesting, though, on June 22nd, they noticed an uptick in gas release. They noticed also the lava dome had grown a little bit, and then, boom, that massive eruption. And just so you can get the size and the scale and order of here about what volcanic eruptions can do, this was a VEI-6 Pinatubo. This is how much it cooled the planet on a single eruption. Now imagine if 2 or 3 are going off at the same time, or a multitude of smaller eruptions triggered by a larger eruption, where the combined smaller eruptions equal, if not eclipse, the actual eruption of a VEI-6 itself with the amount of ash ejected into the atmosphere. There's so much going on right now, and all the clues are around us, and there's so many similarities to past cycles. It's baffling to me why the IPCC isn't even opening this for discussion, and why it's not a major point that we should be talking about, because it affects our global crop production so much. Anyway, I'm here to try to keep this debate going and get the conversation started. That's why I did begin ADAPT 2030. For these exact reasons, we need to start talking about this right now. Thanks for watching. Hope you got something out of the video. And if you like this type of work I'm doing, you can support me on PayPal or Patreon.